Aw. Mm. Aw. Yeah. Mm. Grab a handful of something, baby. Mm. Oh, yeah. Mm. Mm. Oh. Mm. Yes. Yeah. Oh. 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 Mm. Mm. If you want me to do that, I'm gonna have to drink some liquid. And it's gotta be a lot more than water. Oh. There are a lot of crumbs on my body. I can put something on yours. Mm. Why stop at the S? Mm. Oh, yeah. Oh. Mm. Mm. Oh. Oh, yeah. Oh. Oh. Mm. can give anything you want to me, baby. Oh, oh. You're in control in there. My hands are tied. Ah, anything you want. Mm. Ah, ah. Mm. Yes. Yes. Ah. Ah. Oh. 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 Mm. Mm. Ah. 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 Mm. Ah, yes. Mm. Mm. Oh. Oh. Mm. Oh, yeah. Mm. Oh. Ah. Mm. Ah. Mm. Ah. Mm. Ah. Would you rather I remove the distraction of food, just you and me and your cock? Ah. 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 Oh. Oh. Mm. Oh, yes. Oh. Mm. Mm. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Deeper. Oh. Oh. Mm. Oh. Mm. Yes. Oh. Oh. Oh, yes, baby. Oh. Oh. Mm. Oh. Oh. Oh, softer. Oh. Oh. Mm. Oh. Oh. Yes. Yes. Mm. Oh. Oh. Ah, yes. Mm. Oh. 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 My sister walked in, asking questions. Oh, the normal questions. All right, do you want me to read back here, or do you want me to read up here? Back here, or all the way up here? Would you rather I use a lower voice up here? Oh, as low as possible doesn't sound very good. Chapter 1. The Mansion and the Apprentice. Actually, hold on, I'm gonna get some water. Chapter 1. The Mansion and the Apprentice. Robin sighed contentedly as a gentle breeze cooled him down in his office on a painfully hot summer evening. The palace had grown silent as the guests had retired to their rooms, satisfied by the delicious dinner that had been served a few hours ago, and the staff now quickly and efficiently finished their chores and prepared the castle for a new day of bickering nobles. This would have been the ideal time for Robin to get some paperwork done, but he just stared at the intimidating file in front of him, feeling mentally and physically drained. not only by the early dinner, in which he had been forced to listen to a man's art collection for nearly an hour, but also because of the damn heat, which made it difficult to focus on anything for a longer period of time. He sighed again, this time with much less relief, and took a few documents from the pile and lazily looked at their titles. Requests from people wanting to transfer to other branches of the military or to other bases. A report about supply lines being interrupted in the west. A letter from a captain telling him about Plaguean bandits causing trouble near the border. And Cynthia's third request for longer Pegasus night dresses, even though he had told her twice before that he had no influence over that group, and especially not over their attires. He put his elbows on the desk in front of him and buried his head in his hands. He genuinely loved his job, but he would be lying if he said it wasn't very tiring at times. His tired train of thought was interrupted by a familiar knock on the door. "Come in." "Whoa, you sound even more tired than I am," Crumb said with a yawn, as if to emphasize his point, closing the door behind him. He was wearing a formal black tunic with intricate gold patterns embroidered along the sleeves. Given his taste for uncomfortable clothing, Robin assumed he must have been really busy up until now, if he hadn't had the opportunity to change. "You know you won't get any work done in this state, right?" Robin tusked. "I thought I was supposed to be the smart busybody." Crom chuckled, leaning against the door, showing that he didn't plan on staying for long. "What can I say? You pick up a few things." The tactician leaned back in his chair and put his palms against his face. "Why have you done this to me, Crom? I survived a battle with an ancient evil dragon, only to defeat it by paperwork. What will my tombstone say?" "Here lies a whiner," Crom said, obviously proud over his quick wit. "You should head home, my friend. You've been working very hard lately, and a bath and a few extra hours of sleep would do you some good." Now it was Robin's turn to chuckle. "You mean my new giant mansion?" "You exaggerate. Besides, Frederick insists that a man of your importance and renown needs an important-looking house to impress various dignitaries. I've never understood why people would judge someone based on how they live, but I suppose that's politics for you. And if that's one less thing for them to complain about, then I think it's worth it," the prince explained. Robin scoffed. "I hate when you're right, but thanks anyway. It's a wonderful house, and the training hall has been great for teaching magic." "See? We all win," Crom proclaimed happily. "How's Morgan and Nor's training coming along?" "They're doing really well. Morgan obviously already had some experience before she traveled back in time, and even though Nor had no formal training before she started training with, she's learning quickly," Robin explained with a hint of pride, crossing his arms. "I thought Tharja had taught her little, but she says there was no time for that in the future, and even now, in our timeline, she's still afraid of her mother." The prince smiled. "I'm glad to hear that. Well, at least the part about the training going well. But why does Nora want to learn how to use magic now? We defeated Grima around 2 years ago, and if a new threat were to appear, she could fight with her bow, just like last time." Robin shook her head. "How naive. Don't underestimate the thirst for knowledge, my friend. Besides, the more weapons she's proficient with, the better, and magic can be used for other things as well, after all." Crom shook his shoulders. "Fair enough, I suppose. Anyway, I'm going to bed, and I order you to go home and rest up as well." Robin smiled and couldn't help feeling a bit touched by his friend's silliness. Aye, sir. I'll just pack up here for the day then. Good night, Crom. See you tomorrow," he replied and closed the door, and Robin was once again left alone. He put the documents he had checked out and put them neatly back on top of the pile. He then closed the windows behind the desk and grabbed his rope, which was hanging from his chair. As he cast a glance over his office to make sure he hadn't forgotten anything, he heard another knock on the door. Unsure of who could want to visit him so, he walked toward the door and opened himself, rather than letting Pete enter on their own as he usually did. However, he soon regretting having done so, since he was met by none other than Cynthia, the last person one wanted to run into when tired. Alright, so do I do like a female voice, or should I just stick with the... "Oh, good, you're here," she said happily, pushing past him and walking into his office without his permission. "I came here to talk about the Pegasus Knight uniforms." Robin insisted the urge to slam his palm against his own face. He closed the door and turned around to the hyperreactive princess. She put up her blue hair in two small pigtails and was wearing her usual armor, which she had worn even during the dinner due to her role as a royal Pegasus Knight. She looked the same as always. And that was the problem. Cynthia had grown into a very beautiful young woman. Not only that, but presumably thanks to her mother's genes and her own harsh training, she had a body few people could only dream about attaining. It was clear from the angle of her breastplate that it pushed back a very large bust, and the short white dress showed just how wide her hips were. Can someone send me a picture of Cynthia as a reference point? Her face was always bright and cheerful, which only served to accentuate her cute features. All in all, she was one of the sexiest women Robin had ever seen, and she had no idea just how gorgeous she was. She liked saying she was pretty in her, in her heroic speeches, but Robin didn't think she fully realized just how true that was. Of course, she was also the daughter of his best friend, boss and ruler of the land, so he felt ashamed for even having such thoughts about her. Robin almost started sweating, and the summer heat had nothing to do with it this time. "Cynthia, what can I do to help you this time?" he said, with as much cheer as he could muster. Cynthia inflated her cheeks. "You know exactly what you can help me with, Buster. Why haven't you done anything about our uniforms yet?" This time Robin actually did smack his hand against his forehead in frustration. "Cynthia, look, I've told you I've got no influence over—" She cut him off. "Yeah? Well, I can't bring this up to Cordelia. What would I even say to her?" "Excuse me, Commander, but I feel half naked in our traditional, totally important uniforms. I'd insult hundreds of years of tradition." "Well, what would you like me to say to her? I have nothing to do with the Pegasus Knights, and Cordelia would assume I've been staring at her soldiers. If she didn't kill me, I'd die of humiliation. Just say it was an anonymous tip." That wouldn't help anything at all. Cordelia would want to try to solve it amicably first without any changes. "Can't you just get a larger uniform?" "No way, that'd be super duper embarrassing. But, I can't fight like this. Look," she said in a raised voice and spun around. Time seemed to slow down as her dress flew upward, and Robin could catch the faintest glip of her paternal pain, which did an admirable job trying to conceal her large round butt. As much as he wanted to stare, he instinctively looked away. "See, I can't show my royal nethers to my fellow soldiers. How am I going to be everyone's role model if all they see is my underwear?" she asked. Robin admired how her heart was always in the right place, even if her way of approaching things was often questionable. However, he always found himself admiring other things about her, and his body was reacting accordingly. Wanting to get the conversation over with as quickly as possible, and thinking not of his outfit's relatively baggy pants, he replied, All right, point taken. I'll try talking to Cordelia, but I'm very busy at the moment, and I can't promise I'll do anything soon, alright?" Cynthia did a little victory jump and raised her hands up high. "Yay, Robin, you're just the best!" She rushed over and gave him a quick kiss on the cheek and ran out of the office after a quick goodbye. Robin, on the other hand, remained in his office with his hand on his kissed cheek, staring blindly into space and enjoying the lasting faint scent of lavender. He decided to remain a few moments just to let his body cool down. The room may have been insufferably warm, but it was nothing compared to the heat in Robin's lower regions. The tactician left his office 5 minutes later and quickly made his way through the streets of Vistol to his new house, which lay on the outskirts of town. The usually busy streets were almost empty, even though an hour or two remained until midnight, most likely because of the heat, which discouraged people from going outside. He smacked his lips, lamenting the fact that no shops were open, as he would have loved a glass of juice to quench his thirst. After about 20 minutes of walking through the beautiful streets of the capital, the buildings became fewer, and the distance grew between, invoking a more rural... Hold on. I ate too many pretzels. Invoking a more rural feel. Finally, he saw his new house, or rather villa, which lay behind a hill that separated it from its nearest neighbor. There it overlooked a small river that separated the neighborhood from an open, and in the distance was the entrance to a mountain forest. Robin had always, or at least since he was woke up and found by Crom, been a simple. The impressive scenery and luxurious house were a bit too much for his taste, and he didn't think people with his kind of job involved a lot of communication and trust between many diverse groups should distance themselves with things like the material goods. However, he thought back on a conversation he had with Crom, and if this was something that reflected well, then he could put up with it.
I joined for ukulele time.
When he had said that the training hall had been of good use. He unlocked the door and removed his shoes as the nobles did and walked into the living room, which had a fancier name, but Robin didn't bother remembering. A beautiful hearth was the centerpiece of the room. In front of it was a glass table, a white wool rug, and several red armchairs. At the side of it was a dark wooden table with far more chairs necessarily for Robin. But he supposed that's where he would eat with 4 dignitaries when needed. He then noticed a small note on the table and walked over to read. Dearest father, Nora dropped her by earlier tonight for her training, but you weren't here, and I was on my way out, so I just told her to stay in the guest room, which she had used before. So I didn't know when you were coming back, and knowing she might have fallen asleep waiting for you. I'm going to Nala's place and I won't be home until tomorrow. Don't worry, there'll be no boys there. Love, Morgan. Robin chuckled a little at the last line and the adorable little heart she had drawn next to her because she thought it was a little overprotective of her. But what did she expect when Inigo was part of her circle of... Besides, because he didn't have a wife yet, and Morgan couldn't wait to find out who her mother was, she was constantly trying to set him up with people. So in his mind, they were... He walked up to the second floor and knocked softly on the door to the guest room. And after not receiving an answer, he quietly opened the door and saw that Nora was indeed lying on the bed. He entered the room and sat down next to her and shook her gently. She opened her eyes with an and looked around the room, taking in surroundings, and her eyes fell upon Robin. Oh, Robin! I'm so sorry. I fell asleep in your house, and I wasn't even invited. And you weren't even here, but it was just so hot that I passed out, she said quickly in a loud voice as she sat up and lowered her head in his apology. Robin just laughed. Nora, you're always welcome here. You spent nearly as much time as I have in this place anyway. You practically live here with us. Nora blushed and bit her lip. Am I really here that often? Yes, and both me and Morgan really appreciate your company, since this place is too big for us anyway. So relax, will you? He said and placed a hand on her scrawny shoulder. She was wearing her usual archer gear, and Robin saw both a bag next to the bag and noticed a bow and quiver resting against the corner of the room, so she had probably been training earlier. Her midnight black hair was showing in point, and not even reaching her shoulders. Her cheekbones were both very high and proud, and her dark green eyes seemed to sparkle in the light of the sun that came in through the large windows. She was as skinny as always, which of course made her chest stick out even more. Her big bust had only grown after the war, and now she was out of doubt better equipped than her mother, Antique. Robin had no idea how such a feat was possible given her physique, but as her teacher, he had always tried his best to ignore. Unfortunately, it had grown increasingly harder to ignore, and since he was now spending so much time with her, and often running into Cynthia and other shepherds, he felt as though he was constantly surrounded by unrealistically beautiful women. It also didn't help that Noir seemed to be completely unaware of her own assets, much like Cynthia. That's so kind, she said, and looked, pressing her arms against the bed and raising her shoulders. This, of course, squeezed her breasts together to the point where it looked as though they were about to burst out of her cleavage. Robin tried very hard to keep his focus on her face, wondering how he kept finding himself in these bizarre situations, especially without the influence of Morgan, who had more than once jokingly asked him if he preferred Nora's chest or Cynthia's, or someone else entirely. He had lightly smacked the back of her head every time she had asked. Come to think of it, how did he ever raise her to be such a pervert? Don't mention it, Nora. You know, it's too late to for you to go home on your own anyway, so why don't you stay? Sorry I came home so late, but if you want, we can have a session tomorrow after morning. He suggested, standing up, careful to face away from her in order to avoid seeing his once rock-hard dick. Nor smiled at. I'd really like that. Sorry to be a bother. He shook his head, although he didn't dare turn around. You never bother, Nor. I've told you that before. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need a bath before I go to bed. So I'll see you tomorrow at breakfast. Good night, she replied sweetly as he left her. Once outside, he leaned against the wall and breathed. What was wrong with him today? Why was it so difficult for him to be around women these days? He was still a young man with urges, just like everyone else. But he had never felt this distracted by the good-looking woman around. Taking a deep breath, he tried rationalizing like he always. He was simply tired and stressed, and that made his body react strangely. Plus, the heat was probably clouding his judgment. It wasn't a very logical explanation, but it was the only one that made sense to him at the moment. And with that, he walked in the bath, hoping there was still a few buckets of water left to fill the bath. He needed a cold bath. Hold on. Check this. Very nice. Very nice. Every morning, a middle-aged maid came to prepare breakfast and take care of it. After all, such a big house needed a lot of maintenance to be kept clean and not fall apart. This was Robin's idea, as he almost never had enough time to do either, and it was nice to be met with fresh fruit, cheese, bread, and different kinds of meat every morning. I'm going to start reading a little faster, by the way. He left a note telling her to prepare breakfast for Nora as well. They found 2 plates waiting for them as a result. He prepared a black cup of tea and cut up an apple, and took a few grapes and a slice of creamy cheese, and started eating and reading the novel he had borrowed from Samia. It was strange eating in such silence, since Morgan was usually around to cause a ruckus, but the maid wasn't here, nor did it seem like Nora had woken up yet, so he sat alone in the living room, enjoying a few minutes of peace and quiet before his busy day began. The novel really wasn't particularly well written, but Robin would be lying if he said he hadn't found it at least entertaining. It was about a young, clumsy Pegasus knight who suddenly found herself in a group of really attractive men, all competing for her affections. And over the course of the story, she grew as both a person and a warrior, and Robin had an inkling that she'd also find true love in the end. He chuckled to himself. Of course, this was the kind of book Samia would like to read, although she didn't have to rely on fantasies anymore. She was now a queen, a mother, and a fantastic warrior. All she needed was a bit more self-esteem. After having read several pages, Nora walked down the stairs and greeted him. Good morning, Robin. Did you sleep well? She was as sweet as always, Robin thought. Yeah, thanks. I slept like a log. How about you? Oh, yeah, and by the way, help yourself to whatever food you want. If we're going to train, we're going to need plenty of energy. She sat down and placed a small loaf of bread on her plate. Thank you. You're always so kind to me. I'm pretty sure forbidding my guests from eating food while I am would make me a pretty crappy person, he said with a laugh. Don't mention it, Nora. Besides, you sometimes drop by just to make sure I don't work too much, so I'd say you're the real kind of one here. She stopped putting food on her plate, cheeks turning silently red. Her voice was full of determination. Someone must make sure you don't work yourself to death. You always put everyone else's needs first. I know Morgan worries about you too. Robin blinked twice, surprised by Nora's conviction and word. I'm fine. You're not fine, she said forcefully, although without any anger. You work late into the nights, forget to eat, and everyone expects you to solve all of their problems. You look like you're about to collapse yesterday when you got home. And if you didn't train me and Morgan, you wouldn't have an outlet for all your pent-up stress. He stared at her, unsure where this was coming from. He didn't know how to reply, as all she had said was true. After a few moments of silence, Nora returned to her usual meeks. I didn't mean to shout at you. I'll just be on my way. I understand if you don't want to train me anymore. He stopped her from hastily leaving the table. He then started laughing, which made her even more nervous. Thank you. I'm very glad to hear you care so much about my well-being. I promise I'll try to take better care of myself from now on, all right? She sat down, again with the relieved expression on her face. Good. Robin leaned back in his chair, not uncomfortable with the affection shown by his beautiful student. However, one thing was bothering him. So, Morgan worries about me too? Nora swallowed a piece of bread. Yeah, you're her everything, you know? She just wants you to be happy. Of course, she wants to meet her mother as well. Must be so strange not knowing who your parents are. He grimaced. Having not talked to Morgan about this at all made him feel like a very bad parent. He knew they had a great connection. They do almost everything together, and they could talk forever about anything and everything. They were each other's best friends, so he doubly ashamed that he hadn't picked up on her worries. Were all of her attempts at making him hook up with someone a way of her getting to know her mother? I see, he replied sadly. I'll talk to her about it later today. I never wanted anyone to worry about me, least of all her. I think that's a good idea, she replied with a warm smile, happy that her words had a proper impact. Must be nice, having such a kind parent, she muttered dreamily. Did you say something? Or his eyed whines. No. I just said you should talk to her, she said quickly, pouring herself a glass of water and emptying it in one go, coughing heavily afterwards. Well, I'm all done here, so I'll just go get ready for my train. Robin had hardly enough time to react, much less stop her. He briefly wondered if it was something he had said, but he brushed it off and chalked it up to Nora being terribly shy. She must have said something she didn't want him to hear, although he didn't know what. Finishing breakfast, he started walking toward the training hall as well. The training hall was a separate building made in traditional Conan style, with square rice straw mats with black wooden frames. The doors were large and could be moved sideways. Pause.
I want to give a warning to everyone now. This is the part. So if you want to deafen yourself like the weebs you are, then do it.
Oh. Very nice. Play. The doors were large and could be moved sideways, and led to a wooden veranda which overlooked the field on the other side of the river. It was, in Robin's opinion, the best part of his new fancy house, and he could see why nobles often build buildings such as these. They were both practical and exotic. He found Nora standing on the veranda enjoying the view. She closed her eyes in satisfaction as a gust of wind cooled her down. He walked up to her and placed a hand on his shoulder. Ugh, how long are we going to have to put up with this heat? I don't know, but I'll hope it rains soon. I just feel so tired all the time now because of the sun. Well, I hope you got enough energy for a real workout. I'll see if we can spar today since we haven't done that in a while, Robin explained, heading into the hall. Oh, yes, but I don't think I can defeat you. Last time I didn't even land a single good hit, Nora said quietly, following him. It's not about defeating me. It's about how to use your tomes and how other mages fight, he informed her, picking up 2 training tomes from a cupboard. Training tomes contained low-powered wind spells that hardly even hurt an opponent, but they could send them flying if the incantations were used with enough force and if the magician was skilled enough. As such, they were the perfect tools for wizards to spar with. Right, she said, taking the tome Robin had handed to her. I'll do my best. He nodded. Remember, we keep going until the other is incapable of fighting back or yields. If you keep moving or using your spells, even if you're on the ground, I'll assume you want to keep fighting. If you feel uncomfortable or you get hurt, you tell me immediately, all right? Yes, sir, Nora replied, assuming her combat stance. All right, then. Ready yourself, my pupil. 3, 2, 1, go, he said. Even though Nora had improved considerably in a short amount, she was still a novice, and Robin didn't expect her to put up much of a fight. Still, a spar like this always got his heart pounding, and he found it hard not to get too excited. Nora went on the offensive immediately, quickly channeling a spell and sent it flying toward Robin. It took the form of a teal, faintly glowing light that mimicked a powerful gust of wind. He easily dodged it, but it was impressed nonetheless. Very good. You're improving in both speed and power, but you're still too predictable, he told her, waiting for her to make the next move. She clicked her tongue and quickly summoned 3 less powerful spells and sent them in Robin's direction. One against his legs, one against his chest, and last against his head. Rather than trying to dodge, he demonstrated that as a magician himself, he could easily dispel such weak, quickly conjured spells. At the flick of his wrist, the energy coming toward him was dispersed immediately. Now it was his turn to attack. He prepared a spell and threw it against his opponent. The green energy from his spell shined brightly, and the wind magic made her hair and clothes flutter, obviously dwarfing Nora's spells in power. The archer had just enough time to react and step to the side, dodging the blast that would have sent her flying into the wall. Breathing a quick sigh of relief, she channeled all the power she could into her next attack. Robin thought he could dodge whatever she threw at her, but after she launched a spell, she split it in 2, and he sidestepped right into one of the orbs. Mild pain struck his stomach, and he was knocked back a meter, but he didn't lose his footing. He could see Nora pressing her advantage, closing the distance and rapidly casting spells, trying to make sure Robin couldn't launch any counterattacks. He dodged and blocked as many projectiles as he could, but few managed to split past his guard. However, they barely hurt at all, since Nora didn't have a lot of time to put any real power into them, and she was quickly growing tired from her assaults. Robin brought up his arm and blocked the final last attacks before Nora stopped. She was painting, her enormous chest heaving to the rhythm of her ragged breaths. Yikes! She bent forward and grabbed her own legs in an attempt to quickly recatch her breath, which gave Robin another good look at her chest. However, he was distracted only for a little time, and quickly resumed his role as Har's teacher. She hadn't called quits yet, and as such, the battle continued. Not bad at all, he praised her. However, as you probably noticed, you spent far too much energy trying to beat me, even though you weren't doing a lot of damage, and now you have a hard time fighting back. Do you want to take a break, or should we continue? She stood up properly, and although she was clearly tired, her eyes were full of determination. The rules state that we shouldn't continue until the other one gives up or is incapable of fighting back. There's no mention of any breaks, and I haven't lost yet. Despite being a very gentle and shy person, Nora was incredibly competitive and hated the idea of losing. She also didn't like to be pitied, which was one of the reasons why Robin's rules were so strict. He wanted to show her that he didn't treat her any differently, that she was a strong person capable of putting up with even his strict training. Alright then, if you want to be tossed around a bit before we surrender, then I don't mind, he gloated, and quickly launched a spell that sent her flying several meters. Although she was still standing, crossing her arms in front of her to shield herself from any new attacks. Well, she caught her breath. Oh, she whimpered, not expecting such a strong attack so suddenly. Robin then remembered why he had taken a break with the sparring sessions. Nora let out some very suggestive moans whenever she was attacked, even though they only used training tone. Robin was suddenly very glad the training hall was a separate building, or else the maid would have assumed they were doing something else entirely. Unfortunately, for the third time in a very short period of time, Robin felt his cock growing stiff at the most inopportune time. That guard won't help you if you don't see the attack coming, he instructed her, and cast a spell that hit her from the side, knocking her shoulder first into the wall. She whined, pressing her back against the wall and holding her aching shoulder, bracing herself for an attack. And Robin delivered, casting spells, although less powerful than the ones before, and slammed her into the wall several times, her moans increasing in intensity after every hit. Nora tried countering to the best of her ability, raising her thin arm slowly to catch Robin off guard as he punished her weakened defenses, but he quickly slapped her hand down, forcing her to drop the book. He stopped casting his spells and looked at her. She was still holding her right shoulder and breathing heavily, leaning against the wall for support, and it looked once again as if though her breasts were about to pop out, as his repeated attacks had shaken her up considerably. Her knees pointed slightly inward, her eyes were shut, and her hair was even though she hadn't told him to stop. Robin was worried he had gone too far and actually hurt her for real. Hey, Nora, are you alright? I'm so sorry, you look like you're hurt. Let's stop here, he said in a weird tone, walking closer to her. She looked at him, eyes half closed and unfocused. I haven't given up yet. Robin stared at her incredulously. Nora, you're clearly incapable of fighting back. You should be proud of yourself. You've improved so much quickly. You'll be my equal in no time. She smiled at him. Really? I'm glad, she murmured, and sat down, still leaning against the wall. I just want you to be proud of me. You idiot. You have nothing to prove. I've always been proud of you. You're an inspiration to me, he said with more force than intended. Huh? What are you saying? She asked nervously, cheeks again ablaze. You're always working hard even when you're tired. You fought bravely against Grima even when you were afraid, and you even came back in time to correct our mistakes. You're a damn hero, Nora, he told her, sitting down with her and putting a hand on her thigh. She stuttered, just staring at him and then on the floor. You're exaggerating. I'm not that special. I just went with the flow. Lucina is the true hero. Robin shook his head and then leaned against the wall and closed his eyes, continuing to slowly stroke her thigh. You need to give yourself some more credit. They spent a few moments in silence, both resting up after their sparring session. They both noticed the heat and that they had begun sweating. They'd both needed a bath, which Robin felt was one of his primary activities at the moment. Suddenly, Nora spoke up in a timid voice. Robin, you're still stroking my thigh. Robin burst out, quickly removing his hand. Oh, I'm so sorry, gosh, I don't know when I did that. I don't mind, Nora said. We'll have any